So if you guys want to start off by introducing yourselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Menat. I am a sophomore, and I'm studying economics and government. I live in Elliott House, and I'm from New Jersey, and am currently serving as the president of the Harvard College Democrats.
Hi, guys. My name is Wesley. I'm a junior in Adams. Concentration is economics with a secondary in energy and environmental sciences. I'm mostly from Texas, military kid, so lived around in a bunch of different places, but excited to be here. Thank you.
What made you decide to get involved in political organizations when you first got to Harvard?
I actually went to a boarding school in New Hampshire for my high school 4 years, and New Hampshire is obviously a really exciting spot to be in terms of politics. So was there during the primaries for the 2016 election. That's when I first started getting involved. I was really excited because I could finally sort of see what was happening in elections. Was around 16, I guess, at that point. And it was really fun. I was helping to volunteer for some campaigns, was really excited about it. And so was really involved at the Democratic Club at my high school, and then figured I wanted to keep doing the same type of work and keep thinking about the same ideas and meeting new people who were also interested in politics in some capacity. And so decided to join the Dems my freshman year here, and served as the campaigns director between freshman year and sophomore year. And that was really fun because we were doing a lot of like phone banking and canvassing and discussions about different candidates and different campaigns and what we should be thinking about as people who are politically engaged in the political process and whatnot. And so it's been fun so far. I've loved it. It's been cool. Have been very involved at the Institute of Politics as well. So in a little bit of a different realm, but yeah.
I started getting into politics when I was young. I moved around a lot. Obviously, my parents are military, active duty military, so I lived overseas. I lived in Germany. My family now lives in Egypt. And I got into foreign policy because that was like just directly a part of my life, right? That kind of determined where I lived and went and all that. So I got involved in there. And then I would say coming to campus, getting into politics wasn't really something that I intended on. I mean, I'm on the track team. I was doing a bunch of different stuff. But I just found a really great group of people that I ended up learning a lot from. So I think it was learning the community and getting into a lot of the domestic side and issues and living. I would say Harvard College is pretty unique in the sense we're all living together. So you meet a lot of different people with a lot of different issues. And that kind of drove me to want to, understand all these people, help all these people, and get involved in the domestic side a little more. And then junior year, I served as director of speakers and political discourse for the Harvard Republican Club. I guess I technically joined freshman year. And then now this year, junior year to senior year, I'm serving as president.
Why do you each choose to affiliate with a party? What does that mean to you?
In terms of why I chose the Republican Club, well, first, as I said, I chose to affiliate with the campus side just because that's kind of where I got started into more on the foreign policy side. But I guess I mainly identify as a Republican, mostly on first kind of faith-based social issues. I'm also part of the Catholic Students Association. And then secondly, just on, I think, economic and foreign policy issues that just align more with my experiences and views. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want any particular issue, but overall, I would say the Republican Club is not necessarily like a single ideology, and I'm sure the Dems isn't it either. But 10 principles, reacting to information and taking in the world. Reacting into information and taking in the world. And I would say that's just kind of how I do it. A bit more cautious approach to events, reactions, policies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of the same general ideas as Wes. So similarly, the Dems has a broad, vast array of perspectives. Not all of us agree on a single thing. We challenge each other's ideas a bunch. We talk about different ideas and points and like stances and perspectives all the time. And I think for me, the reason why the Dems is a place where I've found home to be able to talk about politics and engage with it is because I think there are a lot of general values that we all agree with. And in terms of like the Dems at Harvard versus the overall Democratic Party, we actually don't agree with the party itself on a lot of issues. There have been lots of things where we found that our group on campus has different values, and our elected board has different values, and our overall membership has different values, and it doesn't always align with what the broader party stands for. And I think that there are pros and cons to that. And what's been cool though is that through this group we've been able to try and bring in all sorts of people. We've had lots of moderate Dems. We've had conversations with people who don't necessarily align with the general Democratic stance on something, and it's awesome. I think it's the best way to learn and to keep growing, and to challenge your own ideas. And I think that's why I've generally been involved with the Dems, and it's been cool to be able to grow my own ideas. I think when I got here as a first year, I had some ideas and they've grown since. They've maybe changed, they've grown, and it's been cool because you get to meet, as Wes said, so many different people across Harvard, and you learn so much, and there's a lot that you don't even know you don't know. And I think that these political spaces in general are really cool to be able to have your own ideas challenged, to challenge other ideas, and to just grow yourself as a political citizen.
So let's dig into what you said about disagreeing with the National Democratic Party a little bit more. How are each of your organizations related to those national parties? What do you get from affiliating with them by your name? And how does being distinct and being on a college campus specifically make you different?
A lot of the time, because a lot of us have self-identified as Democrats before we even joined the Dems at Harvard, it just goes to show that we all sort of share these general values. But what's also cool is that there are lots of people who might be just like left-leaning or are unsure about where they fall on the political spectrum. Maybe they just want to learn more about what generally Democrats think, who are involved in our membership and are engaged in that sense, which is awesome. And I think that goes to speak that we're not just a space for people who are self-proclaimed and Democrats who know it for sure. That's not at all what type of space we want to be. We want to be a space for anyone and everyone to come explore their own political ideas and be able to talk about these ideas and make friends in the process. And if they want to go make phone calls or go knock on doors and gain those skills, and that's also space for that too. So sometimes though, we get some really difficult issues that whether it be through like co-sponsoring events on campus, whether that be just like any stances, any statements that we put out that maybe the people on the board don't necessarily agree with each other on, or it's not in alignment with what the greater party might agree on. And that's totally okay. I think we're all operating under the understanding that there's always going to be some flexibility and a lot of nuance to a lot of these issues. And that's great. I think none of us expect that we all are going to agree on something, that we're going to agree with the party necessarily on everything. And we want to continue being a space that's like that, because I think the more that we operate as our own group, the more flexibility that we have with the types of events and speakers and things that we engage with in general. And I think that there's a lot of merit to that. And it's cool because then lots of people on campus can get engaged, and we're also able to keep our alumni engaged, and we're growing as an organization as the world changes as well.
Most of my answer is pretty much probably very similar to Menat's in the sense of, so HRC, like every campus organization, has to be an independent organization, right? We're not directly affiliated with the RNC or anything like that. So we make all our own decisions and through our elections and discussion processes and community dinners and things like that. So when the question is, what does the name Republican or Democrat give us? It really is just the name, but the name does mean something, right? And I generally like to view the name as just like a starting point, right? And as kind of Menat said, everyone kind of, when you're coming in as a freshman or whatnot, a lot of people are self-identified as Democrats or Republicans. You might lean this way on that issue or this way on that issue. I think the name Republican really just acts as like a launch pad for discussion. So we just use it for like a community discussion. We'll pick an issue that maybe is in the common Republican discourse at the time, national discourse, and we're going to say, from this general idea, what does everybody think? Where are the nuances? So that's really what the name Republican gives us. And we really do try to celebrate the differences in between. I mean, I think if you look at the hub or our website or whatever, the first line of our About Us page is, we embrace kind of a Reaganism Big Ten idea. And we have everything spanning from more like Catholic traditional, on the social side, to more like, free-range libertarians and everything in between. And it's more just a place, the name Republican just signifies that we're a place to come and discuss these broad ideals and values. It's not one specific set, and it doesn't have any connection to any national group.
Zooming out a little bit, As the media constantly reminds us, polarization is a major feature of our modern political landscape. And how's that polarization affected the operation of your organizations?
Polarization, I think, I mean, it's quite a buzzword now, and it's true. And it's unfortunate, I think, as everyone agrees polarization is unfortunate, but somehow it still continues to happen, right? Which is kind of funny. Um, I think it has significantly impacted our operation on campus. I mean, I'll say it's probably no surprise that most of campus is left-leaning. That's why I'm guessing Menat's group me is probably larger than ours. But it has significantly impacted our operation in that I would say campus discourse generally doesn't favor the right side. Or by right, I just mean left, right, not as incorrect. But campus discourse, I think, is generally, and this goes both ways, there's kind of an understanding of it being poisoned against one side or the other. I would say most people on campus generally only talk about political issues in like their tight circle, and they don't reach out across. Like I would say like a lot of, whether it be a government class or any kind of class, you know, most time people are like surprised if I mention like I'm the president of HRC. Like they're surprised we exist. Or like, for example, one HRC member wrote, you know, an op-ed in the Crimson, and then there's a reason for this. I think why on the right, I think our operation has been impacted by the polarization in the sense of closing up a little, because, like for example, one member wrote an op-ed in the Crimson, and they got like a bunch of nasty things posted to their dorm room door, right? Which is very unfortunate. And I'm not saying it's the fault of anyone in group or anything, but I think this is just kind of signifying on both sides how we tend to view the other side as somehow, you know, wrong or evil or this or that, when it's really not the case. It's really, I mean, I think pretty much everyone on campus on both sides kind of has this idea of we all want to help people. I don't think anyone's out here trying to hurt people. We just have different ideas of how to get to the same place. So polarization's real, it exists. I think it has significantly impacted our campus operations. It's forced, I think in the past, HRC to close up a little more, and social circles to kind of spread apart. We're trying to make it a mission to open that back up, whether obviously, you know, Chloe, this being with you and this kind of writing initiative, or this being our kind of open community dinners or whatnot. But it's a goal of ours to not have it impact our operation, but unfortunately it has.
As Wes said, I completely agree. I think that the Harvard's campus in general does tend to be left-leaning, and what we've tried to do with our new board, and what's been in the past too, the Dems and the Republicans have done events together in the past. They've done service projects together in the past, and that's awesome. And I think that we hope to do more of that in the future too, because as we know, as Wes is saying, I completely echo a lot of what he's saying. There is a lot of polarization. I think there should be more space and more open-mindedness and more acceptance of any and every stance and perspective that we have on campus. Every time our board is making a decision, every time we're talking about a discussion at large with our membership, we make it a point to step back and say, okay, well, maybe this is what the majority of us in the room think, but what are the other points of views that are out there? Even if we don't necessarily hold them ourselves, we want to think about them, we want to consider them, we want to think about why we maybe don't hear them that often on campus, or even just in our broader social circles in general. And so we try and make it a point to not keep ourselves in an echo chamber of just what we all tend to agree with each other on. And I think that we definitely need to take bigger strides on campus more generally to ensure that there are spaces for every voice. And we are hoping, and I mean, now it's been cut short this semester, unfortunately, but we've been hoping to reach out to HRC and to try and do a service project again together, because that's happened in the past. It's been really successful. It's been a great way for people to not just necessarily meet and talk about politics, but to just become friends, to be able to get to know each other one-on-one. And I think that it's a really cool opportunity to do that. And I hope that in the future, as just our campus grows and as the world changes and whatnot, there should be and there will be better spaces and more open spaces for open communication and talking. And I think like what Wes is saying about open community dinners, I think that's an awesome idea to be able to just have these discussions with people who you may not necessarily always hang out with or be able to talk about politics with. And I hope that and I mean, there are ways that this is facilitated already. For example, with HPR, with HPU, with other organizations on campus where you're able to have those spaces. But I know I recently heard of something at the law school called Open Inquiry, and it's the space. It's not for any one specific group. It's really just for anyone at all to come and talk about these current events and things that are really relevant in the news right now. And it's an awesome space because you don't have to self-identify as a Republican or a Democrat. You don't have to put your political ideology out there on the table at first. You can just talk about things in general, and you're encouraged to take on a position that you wouldn't naturally hold, and things like that. And I think having a space like that is really critical and really essential to being able to learn more and grow more. And I think that's what we all want out of college, to be able to grow more and to hear from others and learn from everyone. So like Wes said, I think polarization is definitely present on campus, but I think that there are a lot of ways which we can help to mitigate it and to have it less relevant and present on campus.
Yeah, so starting with you, Menat, and then going back to Wes, can you talk a little bit more about those service projects, giving maybe examples of those and other ways in which your organizations have been related in the past?
Yeah, so actually a lot of them were before my time. So I've heard about it from when I was a first year, from board members above us. And I think this might speak to what Wes is saying about like the closing circles, that things have sort of gotten a little bit closer together. There used to be, I think there was like a project with Rosie's Place at some point. I think there was even a potential event. I think it was a charity event last semester that the Republican Club came to the Dems with to potentially do together, and it just ended up being that the Dems, we had an event similar to that date or something, so it didn't end up working. But things like that are just awesome ways to be able to do that, and they've happened a lot in the past, and I think that there's a lot of potential to keep doing them in the future. Yeah.
I would say the community of like kind of this joint events were something that was happening kind of more my freshman fall, right as I was just getting onto campus. So I guess I wasn't like as involved back then. It is something that went away for a time, which is what Menat said. And I think it's definitely something we wanted to bring back. So, I mean, like that last semester, that's why we approached the Dems and said, let's do a joint charity event and just do something everyone can get behind to kind of integrate those circles more. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out because of timing issues and whatnot. And then this semester, we're no longer on campus, and everyone's trying to adjust anyways. But I definitely think, and I mean, I'm just assuming that, you know, I think that's something both clubs are going to be kind of committed to in the future. It's something we want to bring back. It's something that I think is beneficial to everybody, whether you're in the Dems, you're in the Republicans, you're just somewhere in the middle. So, I mean, I don't think necessarily there hasn't been, I mean, Chloe, your question was about specifics, but the problem is, right, there isn't specifics. And so that's what we're trying to change.
Obviously, we're here in this interview because of the Reading Between the Party Lines initiative. And could you guys talk a little bit more about our process and how we came up with this initiative and some of its guidelines and what you're hoping the results will be?
I'll give all the credit to Chloe for the idea in the sense that I believe she emailed Menat and I first. And I took way too long to respond, but I still feel bad about that. But I did eventually, as we were all moving off campus. And I guess it just kind of started with a Zoom call between us. And I'm really excited about it. I think when I brought it to the board and the members, everyone was really jazzed about it. I think a lot of people have been looking for kind of a more formal avenue with which to kind of express their opinions, and that's not just like between clubs, but also within the club, right? So I think we have two speakers on one, or not speakers, but writers on one topic who I know kind of have different views, and a lot of people are kind of anxious to represent their values in the best light and put their best foot forward, which is what I think this is all about. And it's just about putting out what matters to you on paper and having other people hear you, understand you, and also getting to hear and understand others, to get where everyone is coming from. Because of these closed social circles, there's kind of, I would say, like this ethereal concept of the other side, right? And I think this is really trying to bring that from being kind of an elusive idea to a concrete idea. And I think once we do that, my hope is that we realize, okay, everybody we're all wanting the same thing, right? Whether it be about, economics or social issues or healthcare, right? We just want the best for everybody. We just have different ideas of getting there, and maybe people will change their minds on this or that, and maybe we can come to consensus and build each other up. And so, yeah, I guess that's exactly what I'm looking to get out of this. Is I think the clubs can put their best foot forward and represent what matters to them and understand other issues better than they've ever had before.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Wes is saying. And yes, Chloe's the mastermind behind this initiative. I think it's an awesome one. I think it's a great way, especially now that people are off campus, hopefully with a little bit of more free time, to be able to just think about their ideas, to flesh out their ideas. I think a lot of these topics and questions that we'll be answering in a lot of these op-eds aren't necessarily intuitive to people. I might be a self-proclaimed Democrat, but there are a lot of things that I may be unsure about, maybe haven't articulated my thoughts fully about. And I think just like Wes is saying, it's an awesome way to get to learn about the other perspectives that are out there. And the other thing, though, is that each of these op-eds isn't fully representing either one of the groups. It's that there's a member who's really interested in writing about this op-ed and this topic, and to do so, it's an awesome way to get their own individual ideas out there, and that's awesome. And I think what's cool about it is that each person can represent themselves, and although the general groups might also align with that, it's also the case that there's a lot of diversity in views within each group as well, and that's also cool too, because then that there's not just these two perspectives that the op-eds are being written about, but that you're also able to read these op-eds and talk about them, and talk about how even within your own group you might think differently about it. And so just like Wes, I'm really excited to just at least have these conversations among the two groups, to be able to have people learn about their own ideas, learn about other people's ideas. And it's a cool launch pad and starting point for us to continue doing initiatives like this. I think we've talked a little bit about potentially having this be a pilot program, and maybe having a longer program in the fall, and having it be maybe more widespread in the next iteration of it, should this be successful, and should it really engage a lot of our both memberships. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited that Chloe came up with such an awesome idea. I think our members are really excited about writing. I know so much is going on right now, and there's a lot of chaos, and it's really hectic, but I know a lot of people who have been, just like Wes said, really dying to get their ideas out there and to write them down and to be able to think about them for themselves as well. So I think it's awesome. I think it's going to go well. Hopefully this pilot program can lead into a bigger program in the future.
Yeah, I'm so excited for everywhere that this is going to go, and thank you guys so much for being a part of it. And I think for me, it's particularly meaningful to be starting it during the pandemic, because for me at least, our current crisis brings the problems of polarization and of lack of conversation into sharper focus.
Absolutely.
So do you guys have any thoughts about how conversation across the aisle is particularly important right now?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a quick tiny anecdote, if that's okay. But this past fall 2019, Senator Jeff Flake from Arizona was on campus as a fellow, which was really exciting. And I became one of his student liaisons after I had dinner with him and the rest of the fellows for an IOP event. And we got along really well, got to know each other, which was really exciting. And then became one of his liaisons. And I think that was probably the best decision I've made at Harvard so far. It was a really critical experience for me, because here's me and someone who I didn't agree with almost any of his decisions while he was in the Senate or as a congressperson, and then came out of this experience once he left the semester after his fellowship, becoming really, really good friends, honestly. Got to talk about a lot of different issues, got to talk about what the future of modern conservatism looks like, something that's usually generally very out of my wheelhouse, but was a really exciting experience for me. And I think that it definitely is a possibility that the campus can put these opportunities out there, that like we can help to reduce this polarization and this lack of conversation institutionally. But I also think that it's sort of an onus upon people to seek reaching out to people who they might not necessarily agree with. I think that that's something we've made a priority of our new board this year, that we go and try and find those other views and opinions to be able to best inform ourselves and to put out our own views. And I think that especially during this pandemic, when a lot of these borders and walls that are between people are falling, which is great, because now we're all focused on trying to make sure that people are healthy and safe, and that we can get back to business as usual soon. I think that this is specifically exciting and helpful, like an initiative like this one, because then we're able to talk about, and I mean, some of our questions have to do with this pandemic, like what should healthcare look like in general, but also like because of this pandemic, what should it look like? And that's cool because then we all get to talk about like with this main priority that we all agree on, which is health, good health and safety for everyone. What are the ways that we can all brainstorm to help get there? And like Wes was saying, that we all have these goals of helping each other, and it's just how we get there that sometimes differentiate. And I think that especially right now, a lot of those walls are coming down, and I hope that this can be a learning experience for everyone, that in the future it can be the same way, that there aren't these borders and that there aren't these walls.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the pandemic, like anything, like any crisis, is a stress test, right? And with every stress test, the good and the bad come out, right? You can't really sweep anything under the rug when you're in crisis. And I think this is happening nationally, and it's also happening on campus, right? Because you see budget cuts and constraints, and people are having to move out, and what people are given time to reflect, and they can really sit back and think about, you know, what's going on correctly and what's going on incorrectly. And during this time of stress test, and everyone, you know, and the good and the bad are coming out, I think it's really important for there to be more unity and cohesion than ever, right? Because one, you have to get over the crisis, and on the national scale, that's the pandemic, and on the little individual scale of Harvard itself, that's things like how are we going to change grading? How does housing? What does financial aid look like in the future? What is, you know, you have the HUD's workers, and so many things going on that everyone really cares about. And it's important when these big decisions are being made very rapidly to understand everybody and their point of views and get all the sides in. And because the temptation is to kind of close up even more and run with your side, but that's not what we want to do. And I'm really excited because of this. I think it's the perfect time for this Read Between the Party Lines initiative for nationally, as we ramp up into an election year, during a crisis, all of that, to be able to do exactly that, read between the party lines and actually see both, you know, the commonalities, the differences, and how the differences can be bridged at the national level and then at Harvard itself, right? So it's perfect, it's great, I'm super excited.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for, again, just
Thanks,
your
guys.
enthusiasm and talent that you've brought to this already, and for being here for this interview today. And I'm really excited to work with you for the rest of the semester and hopefully beyond.
Awesome. Thanks, Chloe.